Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Nyasha if you haven't been here before, and I have loads of different content on my channel, or at least I'm trying to put out lots of different content. Please do let me know what you think. So today I'm going to be talking about this whole Boris Johnson malarkey situation because it seems people are really upset about it. And honestly, I feel like once again, it has exposed the selfish nature of people, because first of all, I think you've got to be pretty blind if you think that people in the government, they're not all corrupt. I believe they're all corrupt. Like, it is what it is. Like, as far as I'm concerned, unless you have Jesus as your Lord and Savior, you have no reason not to do something that you can get away with. And most people who are in a position of power, a lot of them will know that they've climbed their way to the top through dodgy ways, and a lot of them support each other. So I think, number one, in terms of corruption, I think people should kind of know already that there is almost definitely corruption within all the members of the government. And actually, Boris Johnson has been one of the people that I think as a nation we see and have seen the most. Like, in terms of, like, back in the day when he was mayor, people would actually see him out on his bike as a normal person. Now, I'm not saying that I'm a massive Boris Johnson fan. I'm not a massive Boris Johnson fan. I'm not a fan of the government at all, to be honest with you. But what I do think is that he's been through a lot, first of all, because he has, number one, delivered Brexit, which, whether you wanted Brexit or not, it was something that was going to happen, something that everybody had voted for, and something that needed to be solved and resolved so that everybody was happy and everything could go through. He achieved that. And secondly, he has also, despite however you feel about it, dealt with this whole situation with the law, with COVID, and having to think about what he's going to do with the country in terms of restrictions or not restrictions, and our borders and our this and that, and having all of these discussions. Now, COVID is something we didn't expect to happen, although I definitely think there are powers that be somewhere. I don't believe Boris was a part of it, but somewhere there were people who purposely started this thing, which sounds crazy, but I think we need to start realizing that I live in the real world. I always say this to people, like, I live in the real world where I know that people are capable of anything. Like, I don't know why people think that the automatic thing is that everybody's a good person. The automatic thing is that everybody is selfish. And, like, even with this whole thing with Boris now, yeah? Okay, so they're saying that there was £88,000 spent on the renovations of a property that is not his own. Like, so he doesn't own that property, and he lives there. And, like, first of all, my thinking first of all was, okay, well, why would he even want to redecorate a home? Like, and this is the thing, guys. During COVID, we've all been stuck inside, and our homes have literally, and even before COVID, your home is your sanctuary. Your home is your place where you get to take a break. And I'm sorry, no matter what we think about Boris Johnson, the level of authority, the level of pressure that he is under, I absolutely believe he deserves to have somewhere that he's comfortable with, that he's happy with, that he can bring his newborn baby into. So I don't really see why it's such a big issue with everybody that Boris has spent all of that money. Wherever that money came from, I don't see why that's a big issue. And personally, as somebody living in the UK, I have no issue with that. I really have no issue with that, because he's doing something. He's spending a lot of the decisions he's making are in order to make our situation, the public, a lot better. And he's having to make decisions that are literally life and death decisions, if you see what I'm saying. So, I mean, he deserves it. And I mean, we have all this talk about mental health and all this talk about looking after yourself and making sure that you take all the time you need during COVID. But when it comes to the Prime Minister, somehow he's supposed to be absolutely perfect. I mean, people are having a massive issue with this whole fact that he didn't like the John Lewis stuff that Theresa May had put in the place, which, frankly, I don't think I would have liked how Theresa May probably would have left it, but that's just not really the point. But at the same time, why isn't he able to do whatever he wants to do just the same as you are? Because this is the thing. Everybody is happy. Everybody's always thinking about the other person. They're like, oh, look at how this affects the British public. But I'm not being funny. £88,000 versus the 63 million that Matt Hancock has wasted, versus the amount of money that's probably spent on some of these royal palaces and houses that a lot of the time probably don't have people in, that probably cost a lot more in terms of upkeep and whatnot. I'm pretty fine with Boris Johnson spending 88,000 on renovating somewhere, so that in the probably very few hours he actually gets to be at home and he actually gets to like spend time with his family, he can actually de-stress enough. Because you know what, guys, like when you talk about mental health and stuff, these are the types of things that make people commit suicide. This is literally the types of things that make people commit suicide. Because like when you're in the public eye, everybody has an opinion, but at the same time, could you do Boris Johnson's job? Really and truly, could you do it? Because I can't say that I could do especially better than Boris Johnson. I mean, I would like to think so, as everybody would like to think so, but the reality is I'm not in that position. God hasn't put me in that position, and no one's put you in that position. So I don't really understand why people are having such a big issue with Boris doing what he's doing. And again, they're saying, oh, some of the money might have come from, you know, people that's supporting the Conservative government or whatever. Again, for me, if that means that's going to help Boris, if that's really going to help Boris to be able to look after the country, I think we should be totally okay with that. And if I'm going to be totally bluntly honest, when we look, I think I'm more concerned, like I said, about what's going on with money that goes towards the royal family. Why is everybody so concerned about how their taxes are being spent for Boris Johnson, who essentially, like back in the day, the monarchies had begun, and over the past hundreds of years and everything, kings and queens were actually out there making the big decisions and taking on big responsibilities, similar to somebody like Boris Johnson. So to me, again, that's why I would understand you have your palace, you have your food, you have whatever you want to have, because you have a lot of pressure in your life. You have a lot to do, and you deserve it, and you've worked hard to get that. But now we have a situation where there's so much money that goes into the royal family, who, if I'm being totally honest, at this point, their job is just to like shake people's hands and take pictures and make money and make Britain look good. Like they're not really doing, and the people within the royal family who seem to be really connected with their work and really care about it are the ones we don't see, the ones who work for themselves. The Princess Anne's, the Princess Diana's, all of those people were people, and there's plenty more of them, don't get me wrong. Those are people who are out there working. And so it's like, even when you listen to the stuff that was going on with Harry and Meghan and how they were talking about royal duties, not necessarily for them, but it seems like a lot of the royal duties are things that are put onto people, but that are not coming from their heart, if that makes sense. As in, it's one thing to go around and see all your fans and then, like, you know, and be taking pictures of them and getting to know them because you love them. And it's another thing to do it because that is the job that you have been born into. And if you compare the amount of money that's going into the royal family versus Boris Johnson, I'm sure that it's far different. But if you look at the change, the actual change in the world effect of either of those, I think you'll see that Boris is having way more of an effect, because people aren't talking about what is the Queen doing about COVID. People are saying, what is Boris Johnson saying? Joe Biden in America is talking about what Boris Johnson's saying. All around the world, they're talking about what Boris Johnson is doing. So I think just the fact, number one, that people are so caught up on that, it just goes to show you, it's like you can't win. Like, I'm just wondering, like, are people going to be happy if he's just not only suffering trying to make everybody happy in the whole world, literally, but then now he's got to now and just try and be happy in a house that he's not even comfortable in. And again, he didn't renovate his own home, which even if he had, to be honest, as far as I'm concerned, by all means, like, maybe not with public funds, maybe that's a bit dodgy, you know, but I just don't really see why there's an issue. I think people need to give Boris Johnson a break, and I think you'll find that all of the politicians are corrupt in some way or another, and you'll probably find that Boris Johnson is one of the least corrupt of all of them. And I'm not saying that to say like, oh, let's just accept it's fine that, you know, the government are corrupt. I'm just saying it is what it is. We've got to be realistic. And again, my question is, why is this all coming up now? And I don't blame Boris for not answering the questions like directly as people are saying, because it's a trap. Because, for example, if you know that you and 10 of your friends, because let's be honest, guys, let's be realistic. If you want to be, if you want to live in like in a fantasy land, then you might as well click off the video now. But if you want to live in the real world, in reality, let's talk, yeah? First of all, it's very highly likely majority of the rich people know each other, and the rich people are the ones who are in power, right? So, and a lot of them are going to know in whichever ways that they might be corrupt. So, for example, we can talk about Matthew Hancock in the sense that he was paying his friends to 63 million. The likelihood is his friends probably were rich enough, may have had the facilities and the resources and the organizations to be able to do something like that, even though they may not, obviously it didn't work. But why was I saying that? But that's the reality of what we're dealing with. So with that, there is probably a high level of corruption that goes on because they all know what they're all doing and they're all keeping quiet because of each other. We've seen that with Jeffrey Epstein and the fact that nothing was ever came out of this man's mouth to take any responsibility for what he has done. They just about stopped Ghislaine Maxwell, whatever her name is, and even Prince Andrew, again, somebody else getting away with corruption in plain sight, yeah? Then you take somebody like Boris Johnson. He probably knows way more than we do about all of the details of a lot of the stuff I've just mentioned, yeah? That would probably shock the public even worse and make the public see even more how corrupt the government is. But he can't go around and be like, oh, I blame you. Well, actually, Matthew Hancock's doing this and Keir Starmer's doing this and so-and-so's doing this. He can't really do that because someone will probably try to kill him. So I can understand why, even if he is corrupt, he wouldn't want to answer the questions, because why would he answer the question directly when it's going to make him look bad and people are so busy thinking that, oh my gosh, like I was watching, I think it was on Jeremy Vine, and there was a guy on there and he was saying that he wouldn't like to think that there is corruption at the heart of our government. Of course there's corruption. Of course there's corruption. And so if that's the mentality that people have, that they don't expect for there to be corruption, you're now Boris Johnson knowing that there is lots of corruption, and then people are asking you a question about your own corruption. It's a trap. It's a big old trap, because then people are going to say, oh, he can't run for or he can't be prime minister, or we can't have a conservative government or whatever. And the fact that that's coming up now, to me, is what really especially makes me think that everything that I'm saying is probably true, because we have had, whatever you want to say about the conservative government, whatever you want to say about Boris, whatever corruption is there, we have survived COVID. Almost people are getting vaccinated. Whether you want to get vaccinated or not is another thing, but people are getting vaccinated. People are happy about that. There has been progression, yeah. But at the same time, so why is it that now we're so quick to go and stab at the guy who's actually stuck around? Not like David Cameron, David Cameron, who just cut out basically as soon as things got tough and it didn't go how he expected or wanted, which was all very confusing. Not like Theresa May, who, bless her, I think she tried. I don't really think she had it in her in the same way. So at least Boris Johnson has been there. But no, of course, again, he's wrong. People wanna, and my thing is, if somebody if there was a way we could have fraud investigations for all the members of parliament and see what's really hiding in people's closets, then fine. I'll be like, okay, we can really see. And I'm confident that if we did do that, probably wouldn't find as much corruption with Boris Johnson, and we'd probably find that it's the more corrupt people who are the ones who are even releasing these stories. Because I'm thinking, why is this even coming out? And it was like that comment that he made that people are really upset about, the one about he'd rather see piles of dead bodies than another lockdown. Again, people, it's like, you want to be accepted as a human being, as a person. You want people to support your mental health. You want people to understand you and where you're coming from. Yeah. What he said, it was a wild statement, yes, and I do not condone what he said, but I do believe that when people are with people they supposedly can trust and or work with, they say things that express how they are feeling. And I think what he was trying to say was, I don't think he meant literally he'd rather see dead bodies piling up. I think what he meant was that for him, lockdown was just such a crazy option again at this point, and he wants to do everything to avoid it, and he wanted to express the severity of how he felt that way. You see what I'm saying? And again, here we go again with this good old political correctness. I hate the political correctness, and it's way worse, I'm sorry, in this country than it is in America, where everything you say, everything is picked and picked and picked at, to the point where you can't be a real person. And that's actually scary, because now we don't even know what people really think. We never know what people really think. That's why people were so shocked with Brexit, because they were like, what? How the heck have we chosen to leave the EU? Probably because the people who voted out were not comfortable enough to open up and say what they really think and they really felt, because they're a fear of not being politically correct, not saying this, not doing that, blah, 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 blah. It's like this whole thing with the masks and everything. Like, people are like, oh, if you don't want to wear a mask, you're selfish. If you don't do this, you're selfish. It's selfish of you to want that, because you're doing that for you, because you're scared of the coronavirus. Do you see what I'm saying? So you can't have one side and not have the other. And again, it just shows that people ultimately are just selfish and they care about what suits them. And the more that we continue down this track of just choosing one thing, and the media, I'm fully done with the media at this point. The media, I don't know who's at the top of that, but whoever's at the top of the media is probably the same person who's at the top of why all this stuff is coming out about Boris, and so on and so forth. And they're just creating all of these issues that do not matter, because I'm not going to lie to you guys, in terms of the amount of money that's being spent in the government, 88,000 of which he claims he paid it all back in the end anyway and whatever, is not that much money. There were people like literally in COVID getting 50k for their business and cutting out and going back to like Europe and stuff and living in Europe and basically just getting money because they had a business account, taking 50 grand and going home. Why are we not talking about that? Why is nobody making a bigger fuss about that? Yeah, people have spoken about it. Why are people not saying whoever allowed for that to happen needs to be on the chopping block? Exactly, because for some reason, there's always one side that's acceptable in society and there's another side that's not acceptable in society. And my question always is, who is at the top of creating that narrative in the media? Who is at the top of creating that narrative in society? And why are we not thinking about that? And why are we not holding those people accountable? That's what I have to say about the Boris situation. It's not great that he used public funds, but he said he did repay them or whatever. I'm not sure if it's even technically public funds, but I guess it's like the people who want to support the Conservatives or him or whatever. I don't think it's bad that if he wants to spend £9,000 on a sofa, like, go ahead, dude. Like, you wouldn't say anything to your favourite celebrity. You wouldn't say anything to Adele for spending £9,000 on a sofa. It's only because it's Boris Johnson. And to be honest with you, yeah, as well, if you're really so hell-bent on how your taxes are spent, you just go and do the same thing that these other people do and avoid paying most of your taxes. Because this is the other thing I don't get about people. You'll sit at home with your with your £18,000 a month salary, yeah, killing yourself every week, paying all of these taxes and being salty and being bitter, when you could go and start your own company, you could go and sign off half your stuff as expenses and be living the dream. I don't really understand. So I think, yeah, it just has just exposed again how selfish people are, how much people just want to just always have somebody on the chopping block, always be picking out what somebody's doing, and just how blind people are. Because I'm sorry, guys, if you think that Boris is like the only corrupt one, or this is the only corruption, this to me is probably like, it's literally like a flake in terms of the whole picture of how much corruption is probably there. And even still, this is the man who has been at the top of this government and has kept us going this whole time. And that's a lot coming from me, because I'm not saying that like I said, it's not like I specifically love Boris Johnson, yeah. I have my own thoughts and opinions on him. However, I can see and respect somebody that has stuck in a really hard position, has actually been out there with their face basically every single week, talking to us, answering our questions, even if he answers them as a politician. All politicians lie. I think we need to accept that. And I think when we can see somebody that we can at least work with to some extent, which I feel like is Boris Johnson at this point, he is somebody we could work with, at least in the sense that he does say what he is around. He is a lot more accessible, if you like, than other people have been. He seems to be a lot more aware of what a normal person actually goes through as well, because you forget that a lot of people in the government, like I said, they're rich and they're at the top of businesses, and those things are coming into their minds when they're making decisions. And that's why even now universal credit is going down. They now want to charge TV licenses to our pensioners, which makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. Let the pensioners be, let them enjoy themselves. They've worked hard all their life. Let them just go into their old age and into the next stages of life comfortably, you know. But anyways, that's my thoughts on the whole Boris situation. I really just went on a bit of a rant, but that's basically what I do, because I just like to keep it unfiltered, just tell you exactly what's in my head and just say exactly how it is, because sometimes editing things, you become too politically correct, and honestly, I'm not a politically correct kind of gal. If you know me, you know I'm not really like that. I tend to just say what I mean and mean what I say, and I think that's what we need. We need to be honest. If you disagree with me and you have a strong reason why you disagree with me, we're gonna be so much more likely to actually progress than we are me just sitting here and like being like, oh well, I mean, obviously Boris shouldn't really have done that, but you know, we'll just see what happens with the reports coming out. That's not really gonna get us anywhere. But yeah. Anyways, thank you for watching my video. Please check out all my other videos. I'm trying really hard to post out some content at the moment, a lot of content. I'm trying to get really good and consistent and all them things there. So thank you for everybody that is supporting me, and I'll catch you in one of my other videos. Bye!